Hey, everybody. Ty here, Small Acre Hunting. Finally recording another podcast. It's been a while, and it's been a year already. A lot of things have happened, as many of you know. I've already harvested a buck back on October 27th, a day that I did not think would ever happen. On this episode of the Small Acre Hunting Podcast, I'm going to just kind of dabble and touch on the Benor Hunt. More of that to come. I'm going to talk about one specific instance and a question that came to me because of the teaser video that was posted from that hunt. And we're going to discuss that aspect. We're going to talk about some postseason plans. And I'm also going to touch on a little bit of a teaser for Pops's buck harvest and some of the discussions and setting up some of his postseason stuff. So stay tuned. It's kind of a conglomerate of all those things shoved into one episode. Stay tuned.
For the first time in a blood tracking job, I was more valuable.
Yep.
We've got to stop with this idiotic and ignorant stance of, oh, it ain't worth doing these little things or whatever. That's great for you people with thousands of acres, thousands of dollars, huge equipment, tractors that cost more than my 23 acres did. But I'm sorry, you're ignorant. Gas, sweat, and a chainsaw can do a lot of work.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Small Acre Hunting Podcast. I'm down in the studio. For those of you watching the video, hopefully the lighting is a little bit right. I'm trying something different. And for those of you just listening or on YouTube, I might sound a little stuffy. It's because I've been congested now for going on about 7 days, but I'm finally feeling healthy the last 24 hours, so that's a good thing. But so yeah, the cat's out of the bag. Shot a buck. It is December 12th when I'm recording this, which is pretty crazy to think that I am now like a month and a half removed from when that went down. Life has just absolutely been crazy and has not allowed me to hunt a whole lot. Early on, that was because of some of the things that you're going to hear in the Benor story when that's aired on Chasing Giants TV. Some of you already know, my wife's been dealing with a lot of health issues this year. But since I hunted, a lot of it has been my personal health and just life in general hasn't allowed. But I have, believe it or not, only hunted 3 times this year. And that's going to be changing here very soon. I want to get another doe down at least with my bow. And then come late season, just keep an eye on the plot, refill the batteries on the cell cameras. I may move a cell camera to be right in line with shooting lanes and such on the blind. And if I see a mature buck that is worthy of that reduction zone buck tag, I'll use it. But I'm going to be very, very picky. If a really good, to be honest with you, there's a buck out there that I am praying lived somehow. He's a 5x5 with a kind of like a drop off of his brow and everything. Haven't got confirmation that he's been killed, but I also haven't gotten confirmation of life in a little while. But, if a buck like that walks out, because I do think he's a young deer, I think he's a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old buck at the oldest. And if he is alive right now, the odds are stacking in his favor continually that he's going to live, and I pray that he does, because he's not a mature deer yet. He'd be very tempting. Had he walked out during bow season, I don't think I could have suppressed the desire to shoot him. He was already a phenomenal deer to many people, and he would have been to me. But he's that. I think he's a 3-year-old. I borderline wonder if he's a 2-year-old. He's the biggest 2-year-old I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Going to be hitting, actually, hopefully hunting December relatively hard. I've got some vacation days that I got to burn out before the end of the year or I lose them. So That'll get you up a tree if nothing else. But the Benor hunt, and again, the story of the hunt is going to occur on Christmas Day, Chasing Giants TV. I'll share a link on my social media pages as well. But it's not going to delve into the details of the hunt or what I suspect Benor was doing or some of the observations. I'm going to touch on some of those things in this episode, but we'll have kind of a hunt breakdown that removes all the important things that Benor represented to me and the experience and everything, and just talk hunting, deer hunting. The story is much bigger than that, and I can't wait for you guys to hopefully enjoy it and embrace it. But there was a teaser video out there, and many of you guys have probably seen it, and I'll throw it up here. We'll take a look at it actually right now. So I did get a message about that teaser video, and it was a very, very good observation. The guy wanted to know, Ty, why are you? Or was it buck fever? What were you having trouble settling? Did you have? What was the issue? Because your bow arm just seemed to be shaking, and it was a great observation. And then he did notice. He goes, all of a sudden it just like your whole body just calmed down, and like everything, it was like an exhale, and he was just curious. And I'll be honest, it was the very first thing I noticed when I watched all the footage back that night. If you watch the footage, you can tell. So Benor's coming in, it's hard to tell from a second angle camera because of the wide angle lens and what it kind of does to what it's doing. But I'm basically looking down a tree line, and the plot is to my left. Now I'm a little bit cocked to where I'm a little bit more pointed towards the plot than not. I'm definitely not away. I'm just a little bit quartering to the plot. So all my shots are off my left side. It's why that stand sets up great for, you got to practice shooting sitting down, because if you stand up, you actually don't have shots unless they're under 12 yards. So it sets up perfect for sitting down shots off to your left-hand side. Benor had come out and he was cutting across the plot, and I actually was drawing, and I had to stop him because I didn't know if he was ever going to stop. He just had his body and his mannerisms said he wasn't going to stop. Well, I'm drawing smoothly, keeping my arm straight. You'll see in the full length footage why I believe in a low poundage bow, because he's kind of quartering to me coming through, and I normally I wouldn't have drawn with him right there, but he was distracted. He was moving, but there was no motion when I drew. My left arm straight, everything stays steady. But yeah, once I get drawn, you can really kind of see my arm is going a little crazy. Well, what is happening is he has stopped behind this island of cover because he heard my first and I'm trying to find him. I can't quite figure out where he's at. So I'm drawn and I'm kind of semi-settled, but I'm not in there, and I'm going like this. Like, it doesn't look I'm exaggerating it here, but I'm trying to look around my string and my peep and my bow and figure out exactly where he's at, because I've got I'm drawn, so I've got stuff in between my eyes and him, and then I've got a bunch of trees and saplings and branches in that island in between me and him. So I'm not using my peep to find him. I want that full exposure. So I'm kind of like this, and that's causing my left arm because I'm not settled into my shot mechanism. There's no muscle memory, and I'm looking, and then when I finally locate him and he starts moving, that's when you'll see I settle in, and when I go meh, meh, and I stop him, everything stops, because now I'm settling into my shot. I'm finding the backside of my thumb. Everything is going, I'm into shot autopilot. And that's what I want to talk about on this episode, because I am not the best archer by any means. I don't practice as much as I wish I would, but I practice far more than a lot of bow hunters out there. And I'll be honest, this year, one of the ways I stayed in the game was practicing probably more and shooting more behind the house, always having my bow hanging up right underneath the awning in our backside or in the roof extension patio cover that I built. That my bow hung up there pretty much all summer long and into the fall. It was October and my bow was still hanging up back there. It wasn't in my bow case ready to hop in the truck and go. I was still in practice mode because my wife wasn't healthy enough. Things weren't looking good enough for me to go hunting and being able to justify going. So what I did was I practiced. I would go out there, and as I've told you guys numerous times, I will almost always shoot. I'm a one-shot practice person once about September hits. I'm not just shooting one, getting another one, quivering it, drawing, shooting one. No, I'm shoot one, at minimum walk down and get it, come back, and then shoot another one. I want a clean target. I want to be in that mindset of one shot only approach. And the reason why we practice, and it's the same reason why for, the amount of, I go back to baseball where I had a hitting coach one time tell me, Ty, the moment, if you're having to think about what to do, how to approach the ball, if it's inside, outside, what you're doing with your hands, how you're swinging through, what you're doing with your hips, are you releasing your backside, the timing of your start, like all of these things, if you are thinking about that, you are going to suck. It's like, it has to be so natural and second nature. And some people call it muscle memory. Some people call it hitting autopilot. Some people call it when it becomes instinctual. You're no longer, it's not a reactionary process where an input's happening and then you diagnose it and you have an output. No, it's all natural. Like there's no thought process to it other than the fact that you have trained and conditioned yourself to factor in all these different things and hit autopilot and go. And that's what the good hitters do. Bow hunting is very similar in the sense that we practice to the point where everything becomes like the whole shot process is so repeatable, not because maybe we have the perfect form, but because we've done this a million times. And we know if we hold our grip right, not too tight, not too loose, if we don't torque our hand, if we stay conscientious of everything we're doing and we just stay consistent, break through the shot, do all these different things, don't punch the trigger, squeeze it, all of these things, we know if we do that and it becomes so natural to us that it's just another process we work through, the bow is going to do the job 100% of the time unless some catastrophic failure happens. So I think what you're seeing in the stand is the simple fact of once the shot process really started and I touched my knuckle to my ear or behind my ear, there's a spot that I always find with that. Whether I'm in a glove or no glove, which I try to never shoot gloves just because I prefer it. I really would like to get in the habit of shooting with fingerless gloves throughout the summer and just get used to it because I really do like the idea of having a lot of my white skin not visible. Does it make a massive difference? I don't know. It's a preference. It's a desire of mine. Gloves get really warm and sticky in the hot summer, and I don't like that per se. But what you're seeing is the natural part of my shot where my body knows I've done this a million times. This is no different. The target is different, yes, but that's only in my mind. My muscle memory, it knows the process of the shot, and it's not influenced by whether I'm shooting at a square target, a circle, a decoy target, or a live deer, or a groundhog, or whatever I might be shooting at. My body doesn't care. So that's the importance of practicing, and I think, in my opinion, practicing one shot repetitive, that first shot, having that consistency at it. Because I've seen guys, oh yeah, I shoot a ton. And I'll talk to them and they're like, well, yeah, I'll shoot, 5 or 6 shots straight and repetitive, and I'll repeat that. I'll shoot maybe 70 shots a day. Well, the issue is our body gets worn down regardless of what you say. I don't need your macho man mentality here. Your 4th shot or 5th shot, if you're shooting boom, 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 is harder to execute a smooth, consistent draw just because of muscle fatigue. It's just not something that I would recommend. But you're visually seeing in the video when you enter autopilot and it's on cruise control and everything's happening just because it's your natural sequence of events, not because I'm thinking about what I need to do. I'm merely executing it because I've trained so much with my body that's that calmness you see settle in. And I'll be honest, it doesn't say it in the hunt video, but when I shot that deer, I don't believe, and you guys have seen a lot of my footage, I've captured some really good shots on film, and I've executed some good shots, thankfully. That shot felt so good, and I saw it so good, despite the fact I didn't realize my number one arrow, I had used the Illuminox that I have trouble seeing during the day, and those are the blues. I should have grabbed one of the other ones, but I was able to watch and track that white fletching, which I'm going to go to a 3 white fletch next year just so it's a little bit more visible, and I may do a wrap. I just like that intel backup of knowing where I hit. It's one of the greatest things that you can have at your disposal to know how to go about tracking a deer, when to get down, when to follow it, is knowing exactly where you hit that animal. It's amazing the amount of guys that don't know where they impacted the animal, which actually I will say that is a massive benefit to the practicing when everything comes into motion and you're just going through the muscle memory and you're on autopilot and you don't have to think about where you place everything. Maybe you have a speech thing through the shot, or maybe there's a couple things you do, or the exhale or your hand placement, check the bubble, do all these things. You're not thinking because it's all just part of your natural shot. You begin to be able to observe things within the time frame of the shot that you otherwise would not have a clue of. Knowing the impact of where I've hit animals has skyrocketed the more I've practiced, and I don't need the camera as much as I used to. I know where I hit that deer before I watch the footage back. And I personally believe a lot of that is to the simple fact that everything, I don't have to think through the shot as much. I don't have to constantly coach myself through it because I've done that work. I did that in the off season. And I begin to observe more. It might be the exact positioning of the body at the shot. Maybe that deer takes a step and opens up his right side, and I wouldn't have noticed that because it happened after I drew. Or if I'd have been worried about everything, I would have still thought he was closed up. Or even worse, let's say he is opened up, so you draw, and he's open, so you stop him, and you go to settle. Well, in that time frame of you trying to figure out if you got a good shot, his leg went back some. And he closed off that shoulder a little bit more and the line and the leg. And now where you were aiming, you're flirting with bone. And depending on what setup you have, that could spell catastrophe to you. But going into autopilot, that's something I may observe. I am constantly, it is one of the biggest and most crucial things to me, I think, is guys don't pay attention to what that shoulder and that leg are doing on entrance side. Pay attention to, is that opened up? Is it not? It could make a massive difference on where you should aim, especially depending on your setup. But that is, I think, one of the coolest things that I was able to illustrate by filming my hunt and actually messing up with my main camera, You'll see that in the Christmas Day special. But is the simple fact of getting to see what happens when you have that autopilot nature at your shot. I think it's something to work towards. Don't worry if it's not something you're quite to. I would rather be coaching through this process and the steps and having these mental checklists as I work through. I used to always have at one point, before I get ready to settle and shoot, I would always say bubble in my head. It was one of my key words, and checking the bubble on the bow in the front would be one of the things I would do. And I would make sure I'm not canting the bow. Because it was something I seem to need to do. So definitely do that if you have to, but it's something to work towards, and it was a great observation. So I thought, that's something that I can talk about. It's not really discussed in the hunt videos, so I'm not spoiling anything. But yeah, I completely just spaced it, but because I went on a little bit of a tangent about it. But that shot that you'll see on Benor felt the absolute best, so much so that I doubted it, and I needed the footage to confirm it. But I felt like I heart shot that deer, or possibly bottom of lung, top of heart type thing. It was just, everything felt perfect, and it ended up being exactly what I envisioned. It went right through the center of his heart, hole on both sides. Was a great shot. But a lot of guys are asking, what are you doing now? Well, honestly, I haven't been able to do much. Been observing. Cameras have been good. Deer movement's been good. Buck movement has been bad. Well, I shouldn't say that. A lot of bucks. 0 bucks that I would even get off the couch for. There is another buck that appears to be a Mr. Piggy style that I don't think he's going to grow much in the antler category, less than Benor. I think he might be a 3-year-old this year, and it's just so disappointing that that's one of the genetic strong traits in the area. But I think I'm going to need to make a concerted effort to get those types of bucks out and hopefully make room for some of the more genetically disposed for better growing, better antlers to control the landscape. I don't think there's much of a chance that I can accomplish that, if I had a concerted effort of all the hunters around. But it's really hard to convince people to let that, 2.5-year-old stud who's a 130 10-pointer go and shoot the 100-inch 8-pointer who's a 4-year-old. It's just, it's opposite of what a lot of guys' logic is. So postseason plans, I got a lot of them. Fingers crossed. One of the reasons why last year I just wasn't able to execute and do a lot of my postseason plans was simply the wife's health just kind of unraveled on it. So I'm fingers crossed. She's doing great. Everything is going in a good direction. And me and Pops can get a lot of chainsaw work done. On my place, I'll save Pops for a separate discussion to close out the episode, because we're going to talk about his buck. He got a buck. On my place, I'm starting to now, years down the line, I'm experiencing what I call plot closure and trail closure. So a lot of these arteries and trails that I at one time had on my property have since the canopy is closing these out. And some of that's fine and dandy, interior bedding trails and such. I don't need them to be exposed canopy, but trails that I want to possibly have clover chicory growing on, or I want to have more open scrape actions or trail camera footage and things like that, I like a little bit more light. I also have plots that are losing light closure out as far as like canopy covering them. So I've got a lot more either hack and squirt, clean cutting, making mineral stumps, or hinging of more mature or mature-ish trees or saplings. Got to work around some food plot areas, clear out some stuff, probably do a lot of stump clean cutting around the food plots to really expose light. It's amazing what a sapling that, might be the size of your bicep or even your forearm, the amount of light that it's taking, the amount of nutrients it's taking. So clean cutting that, 2 or 3 feet off the ground, right at the deer's level to eat it, all the stump sprouts and everything. let that go for a year or two. If the stump sprouts get above the deer and the deer aren't eating it anymore, then I can make the decision, do I just remove the entire stump, or do I cut it again and let it stump sprout lower? Those are things that can happen, but I just want to remove that canopy so a lot more light gets for the food plot. That is one thing that needs to occur. Another thing that needs to occur at my place is I need to restructure and redesign my food plots to maximize my square footage a little bit better. That's probably going to include moving a blind that I have potentially, putting up a new tree stand. Hopefully, if I do this, there will be a really good spot if there's a tree that works to put a stand up. Even I'm going to probably do it even if the stand can only get 8 to 10 feet off the ground. Just because where it's going to be, I envision being very good. I also need to work on some arteries. This is something that we'll introduce into Pops' property, because the main thing that he has to do too is the same thing I need to do in a few of my bedding areas. It's been a while. They've logged. It's getting thicker than snot. Other trees have fallen now that we girdled and things of that nature. So we need to just spend a day making intentional arteries and trails throughout my bedding areas. Last year, you saw me clear with the skidster some. I may have to do that again in certain areas that I didn't do last year. But there's some areas that just really need a chainsaw and a person walking along, maybe even clean cutting and making some bedding, making some individual bedding options and such, making buck beds as they call them or whatever. I don't really care if a buck uses them, can be a doe, but just making those pocket hubs, what I call in a lot of my consults, the hotel rooms inside of the hotel floors, where the bedding area is the hotel. And then you've got separate floors and then rooms within those floors to really set up and compartmentalize my bedding areas. It's just, I haven't been able to do it. One of the things you got to do after you log extensively is see what Mother Nature gives you and how she takes it over, and then respond to it. What's most conducive for the deer? What's most conducive for the property? What are they already trying to do and liking to do? What do you think they like to do, but you got a tree blocking the way, 2 or 3 trees? Well, chainsaw an opening through them. So that is a big thing. Pops' property is completely an entirely different property. He owns like 29 acres or so. You used to be able to just see through the entire thing in the wintertime. I'll throw up buck footage of us talking by his buck, and you'll see how thick it is. And he shot that deer November. I can't remember the exact date, but it is entirely different property. It's thick. On a dry year, the deer can use almost all of his property. On a wet year, his property is probably about 50-50, too wet to use and to not. So it's tough, but his biggest thing now is, and we after tracking this year on his property, we know that we've got to open up more arteries and try to steer and get some trails open to encourage them. With west winds, we want him to be able to have short access to stands, which he actually shot a buck out of the shortest access stand that he has on his place. Again, lowest intrusion, smallest story left behind, shot that buck out of that. With west winds, we want those deer to naturally have a spot that they're basically scent checking by using the east edge of his property, and we've got to try to get that to occur right on the inside of where he's able to set up. So want to pick out a spot to potentially build him a blind, which is something I need to do at my place as well. At minimum, build an elevated stand at both spots, and then that's the bare minimum we need to get done for him and I is build some elevated stands for blinds, even if we put a pop-up blind on top for 1 year and then build the blind on top after that, or buy one to install on it. But that's kind of where I'm looking at. We'll discuss postseason plans more so, but what you need to be doing right now, if you haven't already, is based on your observations. And I'm not talking saw deer, not saw deer. I'm talking what is working and what isn't working on your property. A lot of guys just look at that as a lot of guys look at that as just a numbers thing. Am I seeing the deer that I want to see? And yeah, that's an observation you need to make. What can you do to improve that? Do you have good security cover? Do they want to be where they're at? Maybe you're asking them to be at a property they have no business being at. But we'll delve into those discussions in the future. I just kind of wanted to circle in, talk about a little bit of a check-in, share that muscle memory thing, because I think it's something that's overlooked. I think guys really need to get back to proper practice, because I think guys either don't practice at all or they practice in the wrong manner and they're just overdoing it, which I love shooting bow, but you got to get to where you're practicing with an intent. There's a reason why basketball practices are not just, hey, play 5-on-5, go. There's structure to them. Good coaches have extremely organized and structured practices with intentional parts of it. So keep that in mind. It is December 12th. Get on the food. That's going to be where the does are. That's where your mature bucks are still checking every now and then, trying to find a late doe, or they're just putting their feed sacks back on. So if you have good food, hunt it. If you don't and you have really good thermal cover, tuck up close to it, because that's where they're going to be, because in these bitter colds, they're either on food or they're trying to stay warm. One of those two things. If you have good food and good thermal cover and you can get right in between with a good wind, that's going to be where I'm at. So that's all I got for this episode of the Small Acre Hunting Podcast. Please, 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 please do myself a favor, or do me a favor. That was really weird way of saying that, but do me a favor and keep in mind, or set a reminder on your phone, this Christmas, Chasing Giants TV, watch the story of Benor. I pray that it makes you reflect upon your priorities in your life and think a little bit bigger than just hunting. And perhaps, just perhaps, maybe you'll become a better man because of some of the thoughts that it shares, just as I have become a better man because of some of the things that I've experienced this year, which play out in that hunt video. So this is Ty. God bless, and good luck out there.